Yo, what is going on, guys? It is your boy Pup. We're here with the PWC Semifinals. We are playing against Ronin, and they have a crazy team. If we look at what's on screen, they have the Tera, Avalug, ENAMORUS, Snorlax, Cinderace, Quaquaval, and Hydreigon. So a ton of threats. Mostly worried about Quaquaval sweeping me, and also the ENAMORUS, because that looks really good to me. Although I do have a Scizor and I can eat a Mystical Fire since I'm Occaberry, but it's really tough. We're bringing a couple of fun things: Scarf Medicham, which is a great lead into them, and we also have Spec Zapdos, which is pretty good. But I played this game like maybe even longer. No, it was like 2 weeks ago. But while I had strep throat, so we're doing some post-com here. We lead into Hydreigon, and at this point, this spawn is potentially Scarfed. Probably Scarfed leading it against me, but do I have a switch in? Probably not, especially if they just want to go for like a Dark Pulse or something. So I'm gonna click Close Combat. If they're Scarfed, they might just click U-turn out, and they have 0 switch-ins to Close Combat. Even that chip on ENAMORUS will be really nice, and we can freely switch into Scizor this early in the game. But they do show to be Scarfed, and they do hit their Draco Meteor and knock me out in one shot. So definitely a pretty bad start for us, but it gives us a free swap. We get to go into any one thing for free, which is really going to be the Darkrai here, because we can get a free Nasty Plot up versus most of their team. So we're going to go for this Nasty Plot as they withdraw. Their designated check is obviously going to be that Snorlax, because it's a very especially defensive. But we have a chance to, break through this thing. We do have Focus Blast, so we have to hit those. We can also flinch them with Dark Pulse, just to try to get them chipped down into a range for Focus Blast. So I'm going to try that. We do quite a good amount, but they do not get flinched. They Body Slam, and they get the Para. So if they didn't get the Para there, we're actually in a great spot, because we could click Focus Blast and potentially knock them out, or go for another Dark Pulse, and we wouldn't die to another hit. But now we are paralyzed, so we are basically useless. And we get fully paralyzed, obviously, so that's very nice. But they click Rest. That's totally fine with me. I don't really mind. And I don't think, yeah, they're not Chesto or anything. We get a little bit of extra chip with Bad Dreams, so that's fine. But here I'm going to predict them to switch into Enam and Ice Beam, but they're just going to stay fast asleep. They're going to go for a Sleep Talk here. And a Body Slam would be super tough here. But they just get a Yawn, which doesn't work on a Darkrai, which is very nice to see. I actually don't think they can Yawn while in Sleep Talk. I think that's not a thing. But, we're just going to go for Focus Blast. This thing has done a great job at keeping my Darkrai at bay. Really tough to get so many full parried. I mean, just the chance, not to flinch them, and then for them to Body Slam me and then absolutely destroy me with paras has been annoying. And of course, this turn I don't Ice Beam, and they switch. So if I had hit the Ice Beam here, we were actually in an amazing spot. As you see how much damage that did, we would have just straight up knocked them out. They had no way to live. But even through our Roselia Berry, doesn't matter. We're just dead to Moonblast here. Even if they're like Scarf, not Specs, which could have been the set, but by the way they brought it out, I feel like they might not be. We're going to bring in our Scizor here, and they are definitely not staying in against me. Doesn't matter. So we're just going to go for a knockoff. They do have probably a couple of good switches, potentially that Avalug, but they do bring out the Cinderace, which might be more defensive. But we get a nice big crit on them. Kind of makes up for the for all the paras a little bit. And now it's just potentially in Bullet Punch range. We do get a good favorable roll for us, which is nice. If we did not, then we would always live a Pyro Ball anyways, because we are Occaberry. But I probably would have gotten burned based on how this game has gone so far. So now they have plenty of options still. The Avalug is just very defensive, so they get to bring that thing out. And they get their Tera off now, which is really annoying for me. I was thinking this thing might be Tera Ghost. That's what I prepped for, because I thought it was really good into their team. Or into my team, because I got free fighting moves off into them with no Ghost type. But they turn out to be Tera Water, which is horrible, because now my Basculin cannot knock them out. We're mixed set with Hydro Pump, with Tera Water, which would have been able to knock out any Tera variant that doesn't resist water. basically from full. I think it needed just a little bit of chip, but we would have been in a great spot. But we're forced to go Zapdos here because it's the only mon that can actually do some damage as a Stealth Rocks, which I do expertly predict. But here, I mean, they have a Snorlax in the back that is very Spadef. They have Pivot into Hydreigon even potentially on what is an obvious electric move. So we're in a really, really tough spot. So they do bring in that Snorlax. We get a good chunk of damage off here with a Thunderbolt, but they can get leftovers, they can rest, and we're just in a horrible spot here. We basically do not have a great chance to win anymore at this point. We don't have any setup threats. We don't have any real wall breaking threats into them unless we get like a nice full para on the Snorlax, or we get pretty lucky with like a crit or high rolls. So we're really gonna need it. Unfortunate they pull a body slam here, but they can't paralyze my Zapdos at least, which is good. But we have to rely on this Thunderbolt knocking them out, and that is the only way that we have any potential into breaking them. But at this point, we don't look very good into the combination of ENAMORUS plus Avalugg. Literally, those two Pokemon just win versus me after that damage on my Zapdos since I'm not defensive. But we do get the nice favorable roll against Snorlax, which is great. But, I mean, we get easily revenge killed by either ENAMORUS or Hydreigon at this point, since we are, you know, specs and like 0 Spadef investment, 0 HP. Is they are going to bring in ENAMORUS, kind of screaming specs to me, just because I don't know if they would want to risk it not knowing my actual HP. But they do knock us out. I don't know if that had to be specs, but I think it could have just been like very offensive looking at it. But we bring in Scizor. Obviously, we're going to predict them to switch because they're never going to stay in with this mon. It's way too good to just get bullet punched, and they have the easy switch into Avalugg. But at least I can knock off the Rocky Helmet on this Pokemon. If by some miracle they are not recover, I can potentially wear them down throughout the course of this game with my Basculin, hopefully, even though, you know, we're not doing a crazy amount of damage with our Hydro Pump. Still a good amount into this Pokemon that does not have very high Spadef, although they do seemingly have a lot of investment into it. We're going to take some rocks, and they recover. If I was Final Gambit on this set, actually would have been great to break this Avalugg a ton. But unfortunately, we are just that Tera Water Hydro Pump. Could have potentially brought specs in this game, which would have been solid as well. But yeah, very, very tough. And at this point, you know, it's really, really tough for us to break through Avalugg. Just this mon on its own. This mon basically beats my entire team because I have no offense into it. I do have the Screamtail that if they go for recover, I can potentially, you know, encore that thing and be annoying, maybe get lucky with T-Wave on it. But it's not really going to be enough to win me this game, especially against the ENAMORUS that's in the back that does a ton of damage. I would just have to get insanely lucky with Thunderwave Paras, basically, at this point. As they go for Mountain Gale, it's not going to do too much because it's not super effective. And at this point, I'm thinking they have to click Recover here to be safe. And, I mean, if they don't, it's fine. But if they click Recover, then I'm actually in a fine spot. This is my only winning play. And even then, like, if we had a chess engine up, I'd be like a minus 14 right now. I am just in a terrible spot. They haven't even brought the Quackable out. We've done anything like that. But I think at this point they might bring it out. They might bring something else out. They bring out the ENAMORUS. So this is great to get a T-Wave off on it, make it a little bit slow, make it potentially not able to just destroy me on the spot. And I can click, you know, moves into it if I want, but it's probably just safer to sack Basculin. It's not doing anything in this game anyways. We can't break through the Avalugg like I wanted it to. I'm also hovering over maybe going Scizor, but if they predict me and click Mystical Fire, then I'm dead. If they're choice specs, I might just die to this after rocks anyways. And it's a dirty roll. So it's a really tough spot for me. But, you know, potentially if I go Basculin and they get fully paralyzed, I'll be faster next turn. And I can try to get some nice Hydro Pump damage off on their team. So that's what I end up doing eventually. Maybe not the best play, but it's one of my outs. As they don't get fully paralyzed, they get the Moonblast off. Annoying, annoying. But we can bring in Scizor here, and it's another point where, you know, I can predict, and I basically have to go off of them throwing, because ENAMORUS definitely wins this game. So if they want to stay in, you know, they are paralyzed. I'll knock them out with a bullet punch. They obviously do have the switch to Avalugg, but I've been predicting it all day. And if I click U-turn here, then I do have a chance with Screamtail to just beat Avalugg 1v1. But I do get this prediction wrong. It was my only play that was any sort of winning at all. You know, Ronan really just outplayed me in this game, out-prepped me as well. Obviously on turn 1, I shouldn't have stayed in with my Medicham. But also, you know, Scarf in this game, I don't know. I've been bringing Scarf Basculin just about every week, and they both speed tie. So it's kind of interesting that they thought to do that. So I'm going to get a little bit of chip off with close combat. It does literally nothing. Mountain Gale's not going to quite knock me out yet. And potentially should have clicked U-turn on this turn, keep my Scizor alive. And it can go out to Screamtail if they want to go for the recover here. But, I mean, everything is over. And they just Mountain Gale again. So it didn't really matter, but would have been nice to have the bullet punch in the back. Potentially get some extra damage. And, you know, it could have helped me in the case they throw with like Hydreigon and miss Draco, I guess. But now we are in Screamtail, and it's, you know, Screamtail's turn to do Screamtail stuff. You know, Wish, Encore, Protect, T-Wave, Dazzling Gleam. We can't have all 5 of those moves. We only have 4, but, you know, we're just going to try to get some damage off. They should probably just click Recover here, as they end up going for Rapid Spin, which I thought was a really interesting play. It's nice for me because the Rocky Helmet is up there. And here I can just Dazzling Gleam knock them out again, because they're not going to have enough speed to outspeed me. So Avalugg goes down. And at this point I'm like, do I actually have a chance in this game? There's slight potential, because ENAMORUS, if they get fully paralyzed, we can maybe 2-shot them. If they get fully paralyzed twice, we definitely can beat them. We don't 1-shot Quackable, but we can T-Wave it and potentially go for that. Hydreigon we should be able to 1-shot with a Dazzling Gleam. So we do have a shot here because they threw like that. But they just get a Sludge Bomb off, and they get the Sludge Bomb poison. And our game is super duper duper over. It was super over since they didn't get fully paralyzed there anyways. And we would have needed 2 of them, but, you know, opponents have gotten that versus me in the past. I was just hoping, you know, a guy can pray for it. But yeah, that's going to be our season. We had a really successful season. I mean, this is our 3rd loss. So, I mean, unfortunate the way that it happened, but Ronan's a very, very good battler, and I'm happy with how I played. And I'm excited to be back for the next season whenever that happens. Probably, you know, towards the end of the year, beginning of next year sort of thing. But we have a lot of other projects coming up, including the SDPA, which draft analysis should be up pretty soon for both singles and VGC. And then we are also in the BBRD League, which is going to be awesome. We're drafting for that right now. And yeah, that'll be out soon. So that's going to be about it for me. If you guys did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.